Hello and welcome back. This video is by request. One of the viewers had requested that I share my story of how I work through my stuttering, and also I'm going to add how I found my voice. And in all honesty, it's still a work in progress, but I'm going to share my story. I'm also going to be sharing work broken down from Dr. Michael Lincoln, the book Messages from the Body, where he has defined stuttering based on experiences from formative years and correlating certain behavioral patterns as part of the actual physical response of stuttering. And I feel that stuttering is a physical response to something deeper that has not been seen within the unconscious mind, within the deeper self. So I'm going to break it down all here. And if you are just wondering about this for educational purposes or for something interesting to watch and to understand, I highly suggest staying with us because this actually is quite fascinating. And there are many, many correlations that do connect the fear of us speaking our voice, of speaking our truth and feeling confident doing so. And stuttering is one of the byproducts of the fear that is within ourselves regarding speaking our voice, feeling safe doing so. And I'm going to break it down all here. I hadn't been fully aware of my stuttering, in all honesty, until later in life. Mostly when I was in environments of more than probably two people, I had a very, very, very difficult time speaking, especially in front of, more than two or three people. I found myself holding back words. I was so afraid of saying something wrong. I also felt that what I would say would have no value. I didn't realize how deep the fear went, but I knew I was carrying a lot of fear. I also do remember back in my corporate career when I was working for several very big agencies in the marketing industry. In certain cases, if I was in a room full of people, I would literally be shaking. My body would be trembling. I would be holding on to so much stress. I would never say anything. If it was a smaller group, a smaller team, it would be a bit more comfortable. But I remember so many times I used to dodge the bullet from speaking in front of groups of people. If there was an opportunity to share some work or speak in front of a group of people, I would find a way out in the funniest ways possible. So I was an escape artist. That would be the gold within my shadow because I learned how to deke out of situations very, very, very well. But it also prevented me from exercising my voice, which could have probably helped me get through the fear, in all honesty, but I was way too afraid at that time. And this was around the age 30 for myself. Probably I would say the age 25 to 30 is when I really started to notice the stuttering complex, but it also was connected with my fear of speaking. It was also connected with my feelings of low self-worth, that by the age of about 25 for sure, going into 30 was very, very prevalent, extremely overpowering. And by the age 30, I did start working with a psychologist, which helped me with some areas of my life. But she had uncovered that my sense of worth was so low. Actually, it was the lowest out of probably, I think she said, it was the lowest out of everyone she had tested, outside of one other woman who probably scored around the same average that I did when I took a certain test of hers. So painting the picture of living in a certain time frame of my life when I had extreme low worth, I was terrified of speaking my voice, I was overthinking while I was talking, I was processing my own inner fears and dialogue while I was talking. So I would fumble over my words constantly and I would stutter. And the stuttering followed me through right into the time where I started another YouTube channel about 5 years ago, where I was reading tarot, and I had this channel where I only showed my hands. So it was very safe for me to read cards and to get my message out there without being seen fully. So it was a very safe place. And then I slowly started to want to show more of myself because I also know my path. And this is part of my path. Creating YouTube videos, sharing my wisdom, sharing my knowledge, helping others is part of my path. And I've known that for a long time. But this whole YouTube space and filming videos and talking in front of a camera, it required a massive learning curve for me to dig deep into. mostly into myself. So when I started my tarot channel, it was safe. I would hide behind the camera. I would use my voice. I still would stutter and stammer. If you are from that time, you know exactly what was going on, because there are some people from that channel here on this channel. Eventually, I grew into more confidence, and I started showing myself on camera. However, it took quite a long time for me to work through my level of comfort within myself. So what I had noticed when I was stuttering and stammering and having a really difficult time forming words, there was a lot happening within my mind and within my body. For one, my central nervous system was lit. So I was very tense. I was very on guard. I also was analyzing the words while I was speaking. So I was speaking and thinking at the same time. There was no fluidity as to what I have now, even though I'm still working through it. There are some days where I catch myself in my old patterns, and then there are some days like this where the words are flowing, the energy is moving, and I'm not trying to control or trying to resist my words. I'm just letting it flow naturally. Because I also had a very low confidence and low worth, I was trying to sound like I had it put together. I was trying to sound like I had my words formed. I was smart, I was capable, and it completely messed everything up inside of me because I was trying to say things a certain way, although it wasn't natural for me. So I was essentially creating a script in my mind while I was speaking, and it was completely messing up what I was saying. And not only that, I was extremely tense while I was talking. So what happens within the brain, as far as I can explain it from a sensory aspect, is the brain freezes, and the inner self wants to express something, wants to share something, but there's so much fear that it gets in the way, and it clamps down on the self, on the true self. So you can think of when we're children, we have such an open system, where we can, in most cases, have an open system. Or even if you can think of the relationship with your higher self, with your true self, unobstructed of the fears and the conditionings of what if, criticism, fear of ostracism, judgment, shame from the outside, fear of the worst case scenario. The web of fears that are formed within our deeper self will override our ability to feel safe communicating, even though there's part of something within ourself that wants to say something, that wants to be heard, that wants to simply express. There's going to be a very strong obstruction coming from the unconscious, from conditioning, from beliefs, limiting false beliefs of, for example, if I speak my truth, I will be punished. My words don't matter. Or if I express myself, I will sound too much. There could be many different beliefs that will be held within the unconscious, with the deep within the unconscious mind, that will drive the behavioral patterns leading to stuttering. And stuttering, stammering are very similar with regards to the lack of fluidity and openness regarding the communication channel, and regarding the sense of safety and sense of self-worth one will have. From my experience, having such low confidence and low self-worth, incredibly low, and so much fear about what would happen if I spoke, I unconsciously was interrupting my fluidity, and I was getting in the way unconsciously, through my body, through mental mechanisms, of the fluidity and flow with words. Now, I also grew up in a family environment where there was a lot of perfectionistic parenting. I also had experienced a lot of punishment and a lot of turmoil for expressing my truth, or for just being me, in all honesty. There was a lot of very unpredictable family behavior, which led me to lock myself in and conceal myself in a very deep way. This also held back my voice, my ability to feel safe, and my ability to express. So there are going to be two different scenarios, because I developed this stuttering complex and stammering later on in life. There also can be younger children, for example, who may have this condition earlier on in life, where they may experience this sooner than when I experienced. I do feel, based on some work that I'm diving into, researching behavioral patterns, beliefs, I should say, even, that become ingrained through family imprinting regarding family beliefs and family conditioning that get passed down from the womb onward. And so the child in the womb can absorb some of the fears and translate the fears into a certain behavioral pattern. So if there are family fears of do not speak up, do not speak your truth, being heard is bad, speaking your truth is bad, standing in your power, being too strong or being too loud is too much, keep it down, maybe even criticism for speaking one's truth. This can be passed down, literally, that behavior, that fear, the essence of it into the womb, where the child may be born with some of these behavioral patterns already ingrained within themselves. So if it is a younger child, there can be the inherited beliefs and patterns ingrained within them that will require maybe some different work than what I'm going to share, because I can only speak, especially from my experience with this firsthand, but I have worked with many people who have had suppressed voices, who have had low confidence, and there are a lot of similarities with this regarding the comfortableness and the trust speaking our voice. And this is a big, huge, massive systemic issue in society. So many of us have been silenced, and this is historically, this is also in our present day, where it's still part of our society, where we don't feel safe completely expressing our truth or being who we truly are. There are a lot of fears within this. And for myself, I have explored past life stories. I have also explored, of course, a lot of formative experiences that led into this conditioning. And I, of course, have gone deep, deep, deep into my body and into my mind to understand the interruptions that are happening when I am speaking. So it has taken a lot of work for me to break this pattern. I'm going to share all the exercises now, but first I'm also going to pinpoint the behavioral patterns if this is resonating with you, or if you know someone with this behavioral pattern, what's happening behind the scenes. This is also based on the work of Dr. Michael Lincoln from Messages from the Body. These are some of the causes behind stuttering: a fear of being clear about what one has to say, a deep dread of making a mistake or failing, severe insecurity, and being terrified of the outcomes of expression. Some of the characteristics that will be commonly associated with stuttering will be being intensely self-suppressing and lacking self-expression. A good starting point to look at if you are experiencing stuttering or stammering is, how do you feel about yourself? Where is your level of self-worth at? And I'm going to also include how to work through it. But that might be a good starting point to connect the dots with your level of comfortability within yourself and how much you are suppressing regarding your comfortability of self-expression. I also did work with someone recently where they felt that they actually have nothing to say. But here's the thing, we all have something to say. And the more I have worked through this, the more I have things to say, the more I find that I have more to talk about. I have more ideas, I have more words, I have more comfortability, there's more flow. And I know we're all in different paths and we all have different desires and different interests. Mine are different, of course, than everyone. But I truly feel that once we become more confident with ourselves and we have found ourselves, our voice, there's a lot more to share that's under the surface waiting to be expressed. The next is going to be they will have a desire to speak up, but terrified of the potential outcomes of doing so. The other is they will have a very difficult time being open, vulnerable, and communicate deeply. So like I said with the other, when we start to crack open more of ourself and we start to connect with more of ourself by going through the barriers that have created us safe, we will open up more of ourselves. Therefore, we will be more vulnerable. Our heart will open. We will connect more. We will have more trust with relationships and with ourselves and with life. But when we have built a mechanism around ourselves that has kept us safe, we will then hold, most likely, our heart in and our vulnerability at bay, not wanting to open our heart because it feels uncomfortable. But truly the false belief that is within our unconscious, within our deeper self, is I cannot trust the environment, or if I express my vulnerable side, I will get hurt. Those are only just a couple examples, but that is what's happening deeper under the surface that keeps us so closed and protected and guarded. The next one is they can be anxious around authority figures, and they may display behaviors of being overly accommodating to meet their standards. So the standards of authority figures. So they may have a great amount of fear around authority figures and be very accommodating, while losing themselves in the process. When we understand the origin imprinting, where this first started, we will create a great shift in our life. Now, like I said, if it's a younger child, it may be difficult to get them to look at the patterns. So it may require a different technique or a different way of breaking through the barriers and breaking through the patternings and beliefs, which I will again leave some suggestions. They may apply to a child, I'm not quite sure, but they are what worked for myself and have worked for others as well. But it is important to understand where this started. So where did the fear develop in the first place? Why is there emotional guarding and protection that has been built? And where did it come from in the first place? So if we understand the origin experience, maybe from family beliefs themselves, not speaking up, it's too dangerous to speak. Maybe the parents had felt very confined or very controlling, or very maybe even perfectionistic parenting, as I mentioned before, which I had experienced. There are many beliefs and many patterns that the parents can have as passed down patterns that will be displayed to the child. So for us as adults, it will require for us to go into some of the origin imprinting of where it started in the first place, why we have protected and guarded ourselves, why we don't feel that it is safe to open up and to speak from the heart, maybe to open the heart. There very well could be a foundational lack of trust with life, with the universe, and with all that may develop here as well. I find this is also very universal, especially dealing with our voice. There's a lack of trust. The what if something happens if I speak? What if something happens if I share myself and I express authentically? So remember, within our deeper self, there's something that wants to be expressed, to be heard, to be free. But then there's a part of ourself that's saying, no way. If you express yourself, if you step out there, if you speak your truth, something bad will happen. And that thing, that worry, the fear, the belief, the doubt is going to have to originate from somewhere. And so understanding the web of the origin imprints, the beliefs, the patterns, and the end result will help you identify what exactly is happening within your deeper self. So to reiterate, where this came from can be from past life experiences, can be passed down inherited beliefs, which can show up in the form of emotional responses, can show up in the form of verbal cues and clues, can be energetically as well, can be behaviorally, how the adult or the parent may have behaved around a specific child. This can also come from perfectionistic family, like I said, hovering parenting, controlling the child, pointing out what the child has done as wrong, where the child has then felt that whatever they say, whatever they do is wrong, so they hold themselves back. And then they also create the auto-correcting mechanism within themselves, it's almost like an autopilot corrector, the perfectionistic mechanism that becomes embedded within their mind, constantly perfecting their voice and what they're saying to the point of shutting themselves down completely. On the shadow aspect, this can turn into a projection. See, I'm stuttering right there. It does happen from time to time. It can arise as a projected mechanism where it will be projected onto others, pointing out their flaws and their mistakes. And that can be a very unconscious response as a reflection of what we are most uncomfortable with in ourselves. All right, so I put this together as far as how can we heal, how can we transmute, how can we transform this experience from being very closed and very locked in and very much guarded within our mind and within our throat. Basically, this could take a long time to work on. It has taken me years, literally probably 5 years of dedicated work, but I have worked mostly on myself and understanding these patterns. I have pushed myself a little bit more out of my comfort zone. And over time, it does create a positive impact. So do not get discouraged with the results. It is a process of opening. It is a process of trust. It is a process of rediscovering yourself. And it is a process of connecting with your higher self, allowing the information and the words to come from an essence, a place of yourself that is so pure and so fluid and so open, where your mind isn't even working at all while you're talking. So again, when I was stuttering and stammering a lot, it was when I was thinking while I was expressing and talking and sharing information and sharing myself. My mind was always on. It was interrupting. There was worry, there was fear, there was doubt, even perfecting my own words while I was talking, even judging myself and criticizing myself while I was talking. So there was a lack of fluidity in this space. Like I said, give yourself some time to open up more and more. And I have talked about expansion and contraction, where we do open up and then our old self wants to go back to the familiar, right? And that is a normal part of the process. And I apparently still have some work to go myself, which is all good. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, so I can move past this and be more of my true self. That is truly why I know I am here doing this very work, but I'm going to get through this. Just watch. It is happening, and it is a night and day experience, especially from even a year ago. All right, so breaking it down, some exercises you can incorporate to work on this aspect within yourself. The individual themselves will have to practice slow speech. So this means slowing down the speech, speaking very slowly. And I also have to work on this myself. I can find myself getting very active when I'm speaking and move really fast and want to get things done really quick. It is because I did experience a very unpredictable family environment. There was a lot of punishment. There was a lot of very emotional, very strong emotional, let's say, repercussions or punishment for certain things, especially to do with my voice in many different ways. So I found that I would talk really fast just to get it over with and to avoid pain and to avoid being hurt or avoid punishment. And so there was so much fear within myself. I would talk through everything so fast just to get it over with, because I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know if I was going to get punished. I didn't know if there was something bad was going to happen. So I would say something really fast just to get it over with and get it out and done with. And what we need to do is retrain our central nervous system and retrain our body to trust and to be anchored in and to allow for us to feel comfortable with our voice. So slowing everything down with regards to speaking, even practicing literally reading a sentence a day in a very, very slow manner, will help allow for the area within the mouth and the brain to work together to slow the words and to find a pace where it's working in unison, not in two separate fractured states of functioning. The next is going to be meditation. Meditation, please. Meditation is so important, especially for this. It's important for many other things, but it helps slow the body down. It helps slow the mind down, and it helps us allow to tune in and find our center, right? So meditation is going to be key because it does also allow for more mindfulness and for self-awareness to develop within our mind and, well, within our entire being. Rebuild trust with oneself. So this is going to require paying attention to when the individual does not feel safe, when maybe you don't feel safe, or someone you know, or your child does not feel safe. Allowing yourself to feel encouraged to feel safe. So if it is someone you're working with, if it is a child, for example, ensuring that they are safe and allowing them to feel safe will be crucially important for this. When we can embody safety within ourselves, we will feel more trusting in our voice and more trusting in the environment that we are in when we are speaking our voice and expressing ourselves. So again, embodying trust within the body. This can come from literally embodiment practices, maybe working with the central nervous system, calming techniques, breathing in, affirmations of safety. I am safe. What does that feel like within my body, within my space? And knowing that everything is going to be okay once we share ourselves, once we share our words with the environment. Practice speaking in small groups and reflecting when patterns arise. Also, giving yourself praise when you do walk through a certain threshold, when you do accomplish something, when you notice a change. If you want to join something like Toastmasters or maybe a certain group, a book study or something like that, I'm just throwing ideas out there, whatever you like, whatever aligns with you, you can join maybe small groups or certain environments where you can practice speaking, even if it is as uncomfortable as wanting to crawl out of your skin. Try it. It took me a long time to get used to this, and I did join Toastmasters for a little while as well. And it did help a lot. It really did. Any kind of, even this, recording YouTube videos helped me a ton. Having group sessions helped me a ton. So all these little incremental steps can allow for us to feel safe in environments, allow for us to work through our fears, and most importantly, celebrate yourself when you do work through one of these, when you do go through one of these thresholds, when you do push yourself a little bit more, when you do advance, when you do something that makes you uncomfortable. Allow yourself to feel the good of it rather than getting stuck in the fear of it. So you're training your body and you're training your mind to enjoy it. There's a reward for it. You're teaching yourself that this is good, that it's pleasurable, that it is rewarding. The next one is slowing life down. So not running by the clock, not feeling pressured, not putting pressure on one another, allowing life to slow down. And this can come from allowing life to slow down within our emotional self, allowing life to slow down within our physical body, allowing our pace to slow down within our outer environment, and allowing our mind to slow down and quiet, not feeling overburdened and rushed and thinking and the pressures of life and the responsibilities, allowing for complete quiet and trust to embody and to become ingrained within the mind. Building back self-worth and self-confidence, noticing your good. Okay, when I would stutter and stammer, I would be so hard on myself. I would get mad at myself. I would say something mean to myself. I would get frustrated. I would get frustrated with people around me. And it would just perpetuate the cycle. It would perpetuate the feeling of having low self-worth. So now, if I stutter or stammer, I might laugh at it a little bit. I would definitely be tender with myself. I would care for myself. But I also am working on a lot of self-care exercising, building my self-worth back up, building my confidence back up, and noticing the good rather than picking myself apart and picking away at the bad aspects of myself, at what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, the wrong, but looking at the good, allowing myself to feel that this is perfect just the way it is, and I'm learning and growing through the process. Express your emotions, even if it feels uncomfortable. Okay, this goes back into what I was saying about how guarded we can be with our emotional self, within our tender self, building the walls externally or even within ourself that does clamp down on our voice. Sharing our heart and being emotional and being in environments where emotions are encouraged will help us to speak vulnerably and open up more. And the more we do it, the more trust we are going to develop and the greater ability to express more will happen. So we will start to express more once we trust more and once we open our heart more, or our emotional walls more. Allow yourself to feel. Feelings are part of this. So if we aren't allowing ourselves to feel and to process our emotions and to understand our feelings, then we will naturally create resistance to our deeper feelings and emotions if they feel complex, if they feel difficult, if we're not able to understand what they are. So allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to love, allow yourself to feel all the different dimensions of part of yourself. Right? In our society, we are not taught how to work with our emotions. I talk about this a lot, and this was one of the greatest eye-openers that I had going through this process, was how much I had suppressed my emotions and how dormant my emotions were until I started to access them. Well, then I did have an overflow of emotions I had to make up for, but then it opened up greater avenues for myself to express, for myself to feel, for myself to also interpret life. And the final one is embodying safety with your words of truth and self-expression. When you are consciously working on this, when you are wanting to express yourself, when you are wanting to speak your truth, feel within your body safety. Feel safe within your body. Feel safe and grounded and rooted in. Pay attention to any part of yourself that's holding yourself back. Is there a fear that is being exposed, that is starting to rise to the surface when you are wanting to speak your truth, when you are wanting to express yourself? And then simply ground into trust. I am safe. I am safe here right now, and I can open up. And the more you embody safety and trust that everything is going to be okay if you speak your truth, that everything is going to be okay when you express yourself, that everything is going to be okay for you being you, for you to just live your life. When you feel safe and when you feel that it is okay, you will naturally open up more. You will naturally express more, and you will naturally trust more. All right, that is it. That is all. I realize there's a lot of information here, and it may take a while to work through this, but it is a process that will allow you to free your voice and return to self-expression. So remember, the mind needs some work, the central nervous system needs some work, the freedom and the trust with the voice, with expressing vulnerably, expressing from the heart, slowing things down will need some work. So allow for it to find its natural rhythm and flow with the evolutionary process. But if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in the description area below, or you can send me an email directly. There are also exercises on the Shadow Project, and there will continually be more around this particular topic, because I feel this is one of the greatest feats, greatest accomplishments that we can work through in our lifetime, reclaiming our voice. But it is because it is connected with who we truly are. It is connected with our ability to express, to share our truth. And the stuttering and stammering is a byproduct of the deeper conditionings, of the deeper beliefs. But once we can work through this, even if it is simply returning to our voice, it is a liberating place to be. All right, so you can find more exercises over at the Shadow Project if you feel inclined. There is a 7-day free trial link below in the description area. And I'm wishing you all the best, as always. Until next time, take care.